اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سهلا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم بارك لنا في جمعنا هذا اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مباركا مرحوما واجعل تفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل فينا ولا منا ولا معنا شقيا ولا محروما اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من عبادك الراشدين اللهم ارزقنا الفهم عنك والبصيرة في أمرك والنفاذ في طاعتك اللهم ثبتنا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة بارك اللهم لنا في أعمالنا وأعمالنا وارزاقنا وأهلنا وذوينا وأحبابنا واجعلنا من كل ضيق مخرجا ومن كل هم فرجا واجعلنا من بعد العسر يسرا Oh Allah, we call upon you and we pray to you, we beseech you, we ask you by your names and attributes to bless this masjid and to bless our community and to fill our hearts with your abundant mercy and to fill our homes with your abundant mercy and to help us navigate through every difficulty in life. Oh Allah, bless us with understanding and fiqh of deen. Oh Allah, bless us with understanding and fiqh of deen. Oh Allah, we ask you to make this masjid a place of dhikr, a place of ibadah, a place of activism, a place of amal, salih and good deeds. We ask you to unite our hearts upon goodness and to bless our lives and our livelihood and to make the best of our actions the last of our actions and the best of our days the last of our days and the best of all days the day that we meet you and you're pleased with us Ya Rabbil Alameen Ameen Ameen wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Amma ba'd Jazakumullah khair for attending Barakallah feekum. We were hesitant to do this one because we know it's a vacation weekend, so we weren't sure, are people going to come to the masjid or not? So alhamdulillah, mashallah, I'm happy that we chose to do it, and inshallah we'll be able to discuss an important subject and have a good interactive discussion with each other. Before we get started with the actual topic, I'm going to pass it over to Ibrahim to speak a little bit about the program, and then we'll take it from there inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallah feekum. Thank you all for coming. Like Shaykhna said, most people are probably out or doing something, but alhamdulillah, happy to see that we have a good turnout. So the purpose of the Friday Forum, for those of you who don't know, is to bring us all together in a discussion that is, one, very relevant every week, and two, very interactive. So you'll see over here we have the QR code for Slido, which is a QR code. It'll take you to a link. You don't need an app. It could be on Safari or Chrome. You can click on it. You can put whatever question you want. It'll be anonymous. And then maybe you don't have a question, but you can go through the questions, and if you like one more than another, you can click it and you can like it. So you can upvote it. So the more popular the question gets, the more likely we'll see it in like a sea of questions, and we'll ask them. Also, remember that you can always raise your hand and ask a question at any point during the conversation. It is an interactive discussion. It isn't a lecture, style. So that's why I'm up here. I'll be fielding all the questions. I'll be looking around. If anyone has anything to add or any questions, feel free. And then also, just in terms of housekeeping, we have refreshments on either side. Also, if you're going to have any side discussions, we ask that you do it outside of the main musalla. That's all I have to say about this. And now opening it back to the Shaykh, can you tell us a little bit about why you chose the topic of gratitude and materialism?
So Bismillah, Akhi Ibrahim and I were just talking right now, and I don't know if it's categorical, but I would think that most khutbahs today and maybe perhaps talks in the past week or even in the past month were relating somehow to the concept of shukr and gratitude. I think maybe this is perhaps the third time I speak about it at different venues, one masjid, one MSA, and now the khutbah earlier today and the talk tonight. And of course the subject's worth it, and it relates to a lot of other things that give us critical perspective on our day-to-day affairs and how we handle things. And that's why it's so important, and I think it deserves all of this attention. So that's why, I think it's because it's a subject of the hour. And I guess, for me, whenever I am asked about Thanksgiving and, the whole meaning behind it, I always, I like to give a nuanced answer. Of course, on one end, alhamdulillah, many of us were able to enjoy some time with family. Well, at least I hope enjoy time with family, but at least spend time with family. And And that's something that's a big blessing that, some people don't have the luxury of, having family to interact with and engage and enjoy time with. And, I think at that level it's really, really important to highlight. When it comes to spending time with family, there's no way on earth that Islam would ever tell you that's prohibited. Now, if you want to spend time with family, eating dawali and maqluba or mansaf, fine. If you want to spend time with family, eating biryani ولا مش عارف it, it's fine too. If you really love turkey and you want to spend time with family eating turkey, go ahead, and no one's going to tell you that doing that is haram or there's anything problematic with that. But there is a critical discussion that needs to be had at this time of the year about terminology, about concepts, about ideas. And this is actually what I started my khutbah with earlier today. How many of you were able to hear the khutbah or attend it, just by a show of hands? If you could just, okay, a good number. I think that's really where the discussion is had. And what I mean by that is sometimes, we find ourselves doing things not for any really good reason, but that those around us are doing them. Or maybe you might see people operating in that way. And that way is a little dangerous sometimes, when someone doesn't critically think, why do I need to do this? Why is this important? What meaning does it carry for me? Am I just, as the Prophet ﷺ described, an imma'a? You know what an imma'a is? An imma'a is basically someone who just goes with the flow. People are good, I'll be great. People aren't so good, I won't be so great. That is something fatal. When someone just wants to be, is enamored with being just like everyone around them, I need to have what everyone else around me has, it's a big problem. That's the type of discussion we need to have with our children with some of these holidays, like Halloween, for example, or even Christmas for some people. Some people even have that issue, where there's a certain culture and I feel somehow deficient if I don't buy into that because I'm not doing what everyone else is doing. Or take it to a different discussion, not about holidays. When it comes about celebrations in general, I need to celebrate like this. Why? Because my friends are celebrating like this, and if I don't celebrate like this, I'm going to feel like I missed out. Like what? Birthdays? Yeah, sure. Some people that that's a big subject of importance for some families. They did the birthday for their kid like this. Well, I need to do the birthday for my kid like that. Because they're cousins or مش عارف إيه. And sometimes it gets very, very toxic. The comparisons. That's a minor level. Take it to weddings. Same exact thing. If I will compete in halls, who could have a nicer hall? My hall costs 20,000. Oh, my hall costs 50,000. Oh, my hall costs 100,000. مش عارف إيه. Good for you. Do you have a successful marriage? That's the type of question that's really going to matter after that night finishes. Is the marriage really going to make you happy? That's what matters, right? So doing things without having that critical thought, when concepts become void of their meaning, it could become very problematic. And for me, I think, the concept of Shukur and gratitude has been stripped of its lofty station. It's beautiful, such a beautiful concept, wallahi, that is so transformational on every level. So for me, that's the starter for this type of discussion.
Barakallah feek, Shaykhi. Now, if we were to take a step back and think about this just as an introduction beyond that, so there's two discussions here to be had. There's materialism and there's Shukur and gratitude. How do we frame this up? Is there one that has to come before the other? Do we have to discuss one before the other? Or how are we going to structure today's conversation?
So how do the two subjects relate? The two subjects relate because, sometimes, at this time of the year, in the name of Shukur and gratitude, we actually do things that are the exact opposite of it. Big dinner spreads, tons of food, many homes, half of that food gets thrown out. May Allah forgive us. So much food gets wasted. Just the whole idea behind it is stuff yourself to the fullest, and then the next day, run like crazy and do a bunch of shopping, and now you just don't have to run around, alhamdulillah, or you don't need to run around. You could just go to Amazon, and they even don't do it one day, they give you tonight, and they also give you Cyber Monday, you got sales throughout the whole month, and so the whole idea behind it is the exact opposite of shukr, and that's why the two subjects sort of relate. There's a lot of things that distract us in life. One of the biggest distractions are material things. And shukr is the essence of what Iman's all about. We said it in the khutbah. Allah gives us two categories. There's the shakireen, the truly grateful servants, and then there's the disbelievers. There's no third category. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it just like that. وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. And I think the critical importance here is, look, I've had too many discussions with people that had or have doubts about their Islam. And usually the conversation goes like this. I used to go to weekend school or Islamic school or the masjid when I was younger, and I was taught those things, the basics about Islam, but I always felt like I was never allowed to understand or made to understand the wisdom behind my faith. Just need to memorize some verses, just need to attend some sessions, and anytime I try to think out of the box, people start getting nervous. Sometimes parents, they get very upset. Their kids are asking strange questions. What are you doing? They react to it with anger. How could you ask this? How dare you say this? How dare you think like this? And sometimes that usually doesn't actually resolve the problem. If you shut someone up or stop them from asking, it doesn't mean their shubha is going to go away. It's going to end up coming out in different ways. So for me, that's why this is so scary. When I don't really embody or internalize what religiosity needs to mean, and I end up having a ritualistic connection with it, then at any juncture, my whole life could be flipped upside down. I will not have any sense of strength in my Islam. And that's scary to me. Allahu Alam.
Barakallahu feek. For me, the first thought that comes to mind is, when we get tied into materialism and the material world, and we're constantly chasing something, we're constantly chasing, hits of dopamine. When we finish school and we get stuck in this rat race, they call it. It's crazy just to think that those are the words that we've chosen to use. We've gotten stuck in capitalism, gotten stuck in consumerism, and we're just chasing and chasing and chasing. We buy these new toys, they're nice and shiny, and then we get bored of them. And yes, adults have their own kinds of toys, whatever they may be, and then we try to get something else and something else and something else, and then at some point Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to take everything from you, and then what are you left with except Him? And sometimes we have that reminder, and sometimes we don't get that reminder. So I personally, and we should all take this as a chance to think and reflect on what are the things that we have here in this world, and have we been thankful for them? How do we internalize them? How do we think about them? And maybe the next thing we get into now is how do we internalize shukr? What is it? Where does it come from? How do we harness it?
Jazakallah khair. How do we internalize it? Where does it come from? To be honest with you, for me, essentially what it means to be someone who's grateful is someone who realizes maqam al-Rabb and maqam al-Abd. I realize Allah's status as my Lord, my Creator. I realize my status as a vulnerable human being, as a dependent human being, as someone who doesn't have everything figured out. That's the dynamic. That's why I said in the khutbah today, shukr is actually the cornerstone of this relationship. How does Allah communicate with us? How does Allah communicate? Did you ever think about this? All right, we don't get wahi, right? There's no revelation. There's no wahi, no revelation. How does Allah communicate with us? Through Qur'an? More than that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala communicates with us through the things that He puts in our lives. Where are you born? What do you see? Who's in your life? Fulan, Fulan, Fulana, Fulana. He communicates to us through ata. The Quran says this. The verse I said earlier in the khutbah today is, don't you see that Allah has made subject for you everything in the heavens and the earth? And He's immersed you in His blessing. Inwardly and outwardly, you're full of Allah's blessings. Right? So the way Allah communicates with me is through the things that arise in my life. That includes a great deal of material things, individuals, events. And the way I communicate back to Him, subhanah, is how I react to that. How am I going to deal with that? And so essentially, the whole journey of life is taken back to this idea. Am I really going to be grateful? It's going to show. What am I doing with my material things? Am I giving the rights of Allah and the rights of people in what He has given me? My money? Am I giving the rights of Allah in my money? Am I giving the rights of Allah in my family? Am I giving the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in my position of power and authority and influence? It relates to everything. Really, brothers and sisters. If I'm in a position of influence and I abuse that, then the effects of that are going to be catastrophic. On me. And maybe perhaps those who are under me. But this all goes back to shukr. There's no way I could really be someone who's shakir if I don't make Allah my priority. There's no way I could be someone who's grateful if I'm a slave of money, if I'm a slave of my career. There's no way I could be shakir if I don't give people their rights. How on earth am I going to be someone who's truly grateful to Allah if I don't give people their huquq? There's no way I could be grateful and shakir if I function in this way, in this life in a way that is truly displeasing to Him. If I oppress people around me. That's why I mentioned the khutbah. There's tons of examples of people oppressing each other in the name of culture. Too much. It's just too much. It's too much. Someone who's so full of themselves and their wants and desires that they end up wreaking havoc on everyone around them. There's no way that person has a grateful heart to Allah. Or you know what? Having such a selfish outlook on life that you are willing to sacrifice principles, family and everything along with that just because of what you want. How is that person ever going to be a grateful person? There's no way. You could really link back all of the problems of people and everything they go through to this idea of shukr. Allahu A'lam.
Barakallahu feek. So what I'm hearing is shukr is tied to ubudiyya. And you mentioned
backbone of it.
You mentioned an ayah earlier, وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ. So is the opposite of shukr then kufr?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, essentially, again, there's different types of kufr, right? There's a kufr that makes a person a disbeliever. Kufr comes from to cover, to conceal something. I'm creating a barrier between the body and the soul. That's basically what kufr is. I'm neglecting the essential need of my soul, and that is to recognize its purpose and its maker, Allah. That's what kufr is. So there's different types of kufr, right? There's kufr haqiqi, and then there's kufran al-ni'mah. Kufran al-ni'mah is to disbelieve and reject the blessing of Allah upon me. Now that won't make someone a disbeliever, but that will make someone utterly rejecting of Allah's favor upon them. Many people, they wish for children. Then when they're blessed with children, they abuse those children. They don't teach them Allah. Is that person someone who's grateful? No way. And the examples are endless. This is just one example of many. But yeah, you could give tons of examples to that effect. Wallahu a'lam. Even with what consumes people in their thought. When it comes to, the latest of everything, the fads, the designs, what to wear, how to look, how to present myself. Sometimes that's associated with a lot of toxic characteristics, arrogance, showing off, envy, hasad, envy. And all of this is linked back to a sense of rejection of blessing. rejection of blessing upon me or upon those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed.
Barakallahu feek. So how do I become more conscious of this? How do I become more conscious of, shukur, of materialism, fighting against that? What advices do you have that we can take home today?
Well, if you understand how vast a concept it is, it's basically the whole pursuit of deen together. It's not like a one-line answer or a 1, 2, 3 type of solution. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. How can I begin going about this? It needs to start from a place of intentionality. Intentionality. What do we mean by intentionality? Meaning I start doing things with purpose. Meaning I'm actually seeking something. I'm seeking something pleasant from behind this action or this relationship. There's something there that's inspiring me. I'm driven by purpose. That's how I could begin to start feeling real tadayyun and religiosity. I'm driven by something very divine. That I'm driven by Allah's pleasure. I really want to make Allah happy. So I'm going to ask whoever I need to ask. I'm going to think and reflect however much I need to think and reflect. I'm going to look for answers and solutions. The whole road to ruin is characterized by shutting off the mind. I'm just going to do what I do and enjoy what I enjoy, and I'm not going to think twice about anything. Reflection. I need to apply thought to this. Wallahu alam, that's what I would say. The word is intentionality. I need to give it some care. I need to care about this because it's really going to affect how I look at life. Now, I shared this before. I shared it in the khutbah, again, and I keep on sharing this whole idea of people living but wish they were dead. You might have met someone like this. You might have thought like this yourself. There's too many people who think like that. That they spend years of their life wishing that they didn't exist because they could not understand the dynamic of al-mu'ti and al-mani'. They didn't realize that when Allah gives, He's giving. But also, when Allah denies, He's also giving. For the mu'min, the believer is always receiving Allah's ata'. Think of that. Some people, they think that shukr means, okay, Allah gave you this blessed, this cup of coffee, it's Dunkin' or whatever, Starbucks or whatever you want. Allah blessed you the ability to buy this cup of coffee, you need to be grateful for that. No. To be grateful is to thank Allah Azza wa Jal for those things that He didn't give you too. Because there's tons of things that if you got them, your life would become a living hell. Some people, look at the people of Qarun. Look at the people of Qarun, right? The people who were alive during Qarun's time, what were they saying? We wish we have what Qarun has. Ya layta lana mithla ma utiya Qarun. And then when they saw what happened to Qarun, they said, if it wasn't that Allah saved us, we would have been just like Qarun. Oh man, he's ruined. So sometimes shukr is for the things you don't have too. That's a different perspective on it. Allah didn't will that you get a certain job. You know what? Instead of being patient, you could choose, okay, I'll be patient. La, you never know. Ushkurillah Azza wa Jal. Because how many people were given a job and it ended up leading them away from Islam altogether? It consumed their life and they became so consumed with this job they can't even pray Jum'ah, they can't come to the masjid anymore. You know what? They hardly see their families. They make a lot of money, plus 100k plus. But no deen in their life and no source of spiritual happiness. That's a problem. You should thank Allah that you didn't get that type of job. Sometimes you should thank Allah Azza wa Jal for certain things not working out that you wanted to work out because you really don't know. You really don't know where the goodness is for you. So Allah Alam, the shukr brings all of these different dynamics for us together. It's not just something you say with your tongue. It's such a foolish thing to think that being grateful is just saying thank you. No, being grateful is with my mind, body and soul, and it's with that which I was given, and it's with that which I was denied, and it's with someone who's deserving of it. That's another thing I mentioned in the khutbah. It's with someone who deserves it, and with someone who really, really doesn't deserve it, right? Shukr is not a transactional thing, right? I don't do shukr just because I'm supposed to get something in return. That's not real shukr. Allahu A'lam.
Barakallahu feek. Getting into one of the questions, is every human born with the idea of shukr as a part of their fitrah?
No. So look, character in general, good question. Jazakallah khair. Character in general is something that is learned. It's a learned feature of humanity. That's not taken from my words. It's taken from the Prophet ﷺ, the Quran's words, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ وَالْحِلْمُ بِالتَّحَلُّمِ. Becoming a knowledgeable person is by exerting yourself in the way of knowledge. Becoming a patient person is by exerting yourself to become patient. That's how you become patient. You lose your patience 1,000 times, but you keep on picking yourself back up and trying again until you end up having thicker skin. Instead of getting angry because of your coffee spilling, it'll take a little more than that to make you angry, right? That's something the Quran also says. The Quran says in the end of Surah At-Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. O you who believe, be conscious of Allah and be with the truthful ones. Why? Because al-akhlaqu mu'diyah. Character is contagious. You want to learn good characteristics, be around people with good character. You'll learn it. It's a learned behavior. Now, does that mean that certain people can have an affinity with certain characteristics a little bit more? An inclination towards them? Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. We have this from the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, but that's just in a general sense. Those are like, I guess you could say, the keys, the doorways to it. The Prophet ﷺ said about one of the companions, you have two characteristics that Allah loves. And then he asked the Prophet an interesting question. He said, was I born with these two characteristics or did I earn them? So he said, no, they came to you by nature. Jubilta alayhima. They came to you by nature. Not that you were born with them. He didn't say born with them. Jubilta alayhima. You were inclined to them. So the Prophet ﷺ said, no, you were naturally inclined to them. Some people have those inclinations. They're temperate. That's why your children, growing up in the same environment, even though there might be some different influencers in that, but to certain extents, you might find someone who has an inclination to be more calm and laid back. And then someone else who has an inclination to be more active and vibrant. These are taba'i'. But for the most part, our environment teaches. And that's why we all have fitrah. There's a reason why certain family dynamics create angry children, and other family dynamics create children with no self-esteem. These are things that people learn, right? So anyway, I don't think you're born with shukr. In fact, this is one of those characteristics that you simply don't get easily, because there's two characteristics in the Quran that are time related, right? Patience and gratitude. Patience, وَكَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. How can you be patient with that which you haven't experienced? That's why children are very impatient beings. They don't know how to control themselves and hold themselves at varying degrees, right? And then the same thing with gratitude. The Quran says, when he reaches his ashud and he reaches the age of 40, what does he say? Oh Allah, make me a grateful person. Why? Because you need to go through a lot of things to become someone who's really appreciative of life, right? How many kids, gave their parents hell and only realized how bad they were when they became parents themselves. This is a word for every son and daughter. Too many people have said that. Once they had kids, now I realize why my mother and father were pulling their hairs out because of everything I did. Anyway.
Barakallahu feek. One of the top question here we have is, can you elaborate on the hadith that states people who wear clothing in the dunya to show off are clothed with humiliation on the Day of Judgment?
Yeah, so the hadith actually says in Arabic, من لبس ثوب شهرة من لبس ثوب شهرة في الدنيا ألبسه الله ثوب مذلة يوم القيامة. من لبس ثوب شهرة في الدنيا ألبسه الله ثوب مذلة يوم القيامة. This hadith is basically saying that if you wear something called libas al-shuhra, and shuhra means prominence, something that gets attention, something that's different than what everyone and everyone else is doing, then Allah will give you garments of humiliation on the Day of Judgment. What's this referring to? Really, this is referring to the person more than it's referring to the clothing. It's referring to the attitude more than it is referring to the quality of what the person's wearing. Because إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَمِيلٌ يُحِبُّ الْجَمَالِ, Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. And Allah loves to see the impact and the effect of His ni'mah upon His abd. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ أَنْ يَرَى أَثَرَ نِعْمَتِهِ عَلَى عَبْدِهِ. So if Allah Azza wa Jal enabled someone to wear honorable clothing, should they seek the worst clothing out there? Is that a form of zuhud and piety that we should all aspire? If I'm able to wear honorable clothing, no, I need to get ripped clothing that people, can't stand to look at? No, of course not. So what's this hadith really talking about? It's talking about someone who pursues wearing things and presenting themselves in a manner that's very arrogant. And this actually is so critical, because people identify, or I guess you could say, their identity is presented very much through what they choose to wear. What you choose to wear speaks a lot, volumes, about who you want to be as a person. So sometimes it's associated with a culture. And this culture could sometimes be, some people wear certain things just to show class. I'm from a certain societal class. I'm a person of means, and I'm going to make sure you know it, just so you know that I'm important. And doing that in a manner that comes off arrogant, that's exactly what this hadith is talking about. People who try to assert dominance in a very arrogant way through what they wear and what they have. It's a class thing sometimes. Some people, so does it mean that if anyone who's capable, and they could get a BMW or a Mercedes, what are more expensive cars like Rolls Royce, Bentleys, if you can get this car, someone who is a multi-millionaire and he's giving all of the hukuk of Allah, and the guy just wants a Bentley, not because he wants to be arrogant, but because he likes how it looks and the luxury in it and the comfort in it. Can anyone come and say getting a Bentley is haram? No, we're not going to say this. If you're giving the hukuk of the ibad and you're making sure that you're not abusing this wealth, then no, go ahead, go buy yourself a Mercedes with the mash'arif. But if it's a class thing, I need to show people. No. We need to have $100,000 wedding because we're from a certain social class. We need to keep our image. If we don't have $100,000 wedding, God forbid, people are going to make fun of us. They're going to talk bad about us. I can't have a bad image like that. No, everyone needs to know who we are. We're important people, right? We're from a special family. You want to marry into us? Min anta. Who are you? Who's your family? Right? Get out of here. We're from an important family. You want to be part of us? You need to be just as important as us. That's a toxic, arrogant attitude that this type of hadith is exactly talking about. There's actually a few hadiths that speak about this. There's another hadith that, some people, they don't really understand. Well, I should say, their understanding of it is contrary to the majority. Let me just say like that, just to be fair. The hadith is, there are 3 people that Allah Azza wa Jal will not give any regard to, and not address them and give them any significance on the Day of Judgment. And one of them is al-musbilu izara, is someone who their izar their pants are going beneath to the ground. Now some people, they understand this very literally, so they'll compete in how high they could make their pants. They'll make it to the shins and they'll make it to the knees or I don't know. So anyway, that's not what this hadith is talking about. This hadith is talking about an attitude, a mindset. Someone who is doing this, مَنْ جَرَّ ثَوْبَهُ خُيَلَاء. It's talking about someone who's doing this for the purpose of showing their high class, their status, their arrogance. So that's how I'd answer that type of question. Wallahu a'lam. But that's a really important question when it comes to this subject. Because sometimes people just become enamored with those material things, and they cover their body and their surroundings with it. And in actuality, wallahi, it's sad, because this person doesn't realize, just like when you go Hajj, you want to say something, inshallah, just when you go Hajj, it reminds you, hey, what does Hajj remind you of? For the guys at least. It reminds you of your shrouds, the things you're going to be buried with it. Can you see al-ghani wal-faqir in Hajj? Only through the Hajj packages, right? You get now you can actually, so with the VIP Hajj package, you pay $20,000 on the mash'arifeh, you get royal escort to the manasik wala I'm just joking. But anyway, al-muhim, that's the only way you'll see class in Hajj. But when they're doing tawaf, it just looks like a whole sea of white. You can't really distinguish. That's how we're going to be when we go to our graves. That's a reminder. You want to say something, Hajj, Doctor? Which ayah in Surah Luqman are you talking about? Exactly. جزاك الله خير. ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. Don't turn your face and your cheek in arrogance. Some people, and again, this all goes back to gratitude, by the way. Some people, because of their power and position, they won't even say salam to you if you're not someone who they see as significant. I've heard stories like this. أنفه في السماء, his nose is so high in the clouds, he's going to get a bloody nose, right? If you're some Joe Schmo coming to the masjid and you say Assalamu alaikum, you won't even say alaikum salam, right? Because you're not, who are you? You're nothing. I'm great. You're petty. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. They might not say that with their tongue, but that's how they act. And that's scary. Because that's the furthest thing from shukr. You know what? Shukr means that I'm humbled by my blessings. That's what shukr means. Shukr means that I don't envy people for their blessings. You know why? Because if someone, some people, they have this, it's a problem. Some people, they can't help it. Allah tests them, they don't have good health, or they don't have good wealth, or they don't have good looks. Right? Even sometimes it's with looks. Right? People get jealous of each other because of looks. Right? They don't have good health or wealth or mash'arifeh, or their life is going, in a very bad way, and they see those around them, and they just, they want what everyone else has. Man, this person got that. Man, this person's lucky because he has this. Man, I wish I had that. Man, my life sucks because of this. This person, is he shakir? No way. No way this person is shakir. This hasud, is he shakir? Can someone who has hasad in their heart be a grateful servant to Allah? No way. No way. Why? Because مش ملاحظ the ni'mah. He doesn't see the ni'mah of Allah upon him. He only sees the ni'mah in everyone else. He can't see the ni'mah upon him. So there's a sense of juhud there. That's why hasad and kibr, two sides of the same coin. Allahu a'lam. There was someone else who wanted to say something, I think, over there. Anyone else wanted to comment on something? Okay. How do you show shukr? Some people, they have, they think that showing the shukr comes from taking this ayah and misinterpreting it. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. So what am I going to do? I want to show shukr, right? So I'm going to run to Facebook and show everybody this this cool place I'm going to visit. Oh, everyone look, I got to visit this country. Oh, I'm hanging out with this person. Oh, I just bought this. Oh, look at my ni'mah here. Oh, look at my ni'mah there. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ, right? Speak of the blessings of Allah upon you. What does it mean? Run to social media and show the world all of your blessings. No, of course not. That's not how you show shukr. Don't do it like that. Please don't. Because this is the source of a lot of masa'ib for people. Some people, not realizing how many people on the other side of the screen in the social media world are just struggling with all kinds of things and they wish they had. You know what? It'd probably be better for you not to show too many of your blessings. Because, there's just so much there to talk about. I'm not going to get into that discussion, but وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. What does it actually mean? It means أَدِّي شُكْرَ النِّعْمَةِ. It means قُمْ بِحَقِّهَا. It means fulfill it with its right. Give the rights of Allah in your blessings. Right? If you have money, you want to be someone who's shakir with your money, make sure you give zakah. And not only that, I hear a lot of chatter here and there. If you guys could just stay with us, and mashallah, these beautiful kids, if we could just have them go downstairs, jazakumullah khair, barakallah feekum. So the actual sense of shukr is by giving the rights, right? Anything you have, make sure you use it to the fullest in the way that's most pleasing to Allah. You know what defines shukr? صرف العبد جميع ما أنعم الله عليه إلى مرضاته. That's exactly what shukr is. Use what you've been given in a way that is becoming of His pleasure. Now you've been given eyes. وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ. You've been given a mind and a conscience. All of this. What? So that you لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. So that you may become grateful. So then I need to use these tools in a way that leads to that end. So that's just it in a simplified answer. Everything you've been given, use it to the fullest in the way that's most pleasing to Him, and then you'll be abd shakir. Allahu a'lam.
Barakallah feek. Question here. You said character is learned. How can you work towards improving your character if your household environment does not encourage or help with that?
So look, there are certain things that come easy, and then other things that need to be fought for. We're not in a perfect reality. Not everyone you're going to interact with has this amazing character. Sometimes the people with the worst character could teach you a lot about life. Yeah, sure, character is toxic and we need, character is contagious and we need to be around those who are going to help us become better people. But always know this, sometimes when you have to deal with awful people, it also teaches you just as much. Sometimes even more. Yeah, you want to be careful not to be negatively impacted by that. That's why we tell people all the time, hey, you need to have those releases. You need to have positive energy around you. You can't allow yourself to drown in fights and negative energy and anger and sadness. That needs to be, I guess you could say, cleansed by other types of relationships. Someone who's in that toxic dynamic where the things at home are absolutely difficult to deal with, then you need to find some type of release. That could be through the masjid, through pious friendship outside, through the pursuit of learning, through finding someone who could be a good voice, like a good friend or a mentor or something like that. It needs to be through those types of channels. Otherwise, the way that we go about this is, and again, like if you've never dealt with someone who was mischievous and trickerous and someone who's treacherous in their ways, then you probably won't know how to deal with that when it comes to you in life. So if you have to deal with someone who's like that, for example, then don't be so negative. Why do I have to deal with this? Why is my family like that? Sometimes dealing with those types of things actually makes you a very strong person, very capable person. In order to be someone who's very aware of their surroundings, sometimes you need to be cheated out of your money or out of your situation or circumstance 1, 2, 5, 10 times, then you become more alert and more aware, right? The Sayyidina Umar, what did he say? لَسْتُ بِالْخِبِّ وَلَا الْخِبُّ يَخْدَعُنِي. The Sayyidina Umar, he said, I'm not a wolf, and neither does the wolf deceive me. Someone who's never dealt with a wolf, you think he's going to be able to avoid the wolf's deception? No. That's why Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam had to deal with Iblis. He had to deal with Iblis before he went down to the earth, because without dealing with Iblis, he's not going to know. How does this devil operate? How does he operate? How can I overcome his influence on me? So sometimes, again, I'm a firm believer that Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab contributed to the Prophet ﷺ's journey as a prophet just as much as Abu Bakr and Khadija, not because they're great people, but because of the direct opposite. Because Allah Azza wa Jal taught His Prophet through these difficult circumstances. And of course this is our belief. The Prophet ﷺ didn't have everything figured out day one. He had to go through his normal human journey. And that's why they say in the books of Aqidah, Al-Iman yazid wa yanqus. Except the faith of the Prophets, yazid wa la yanqus. The Prophet's faith, it continuously goes up and up and up and up, but it doesn't decrease. Anyway, that's a different discussion. So,
Barakallah feek. The next question here is, what can we do to remove or decrease this idea or this sickness of instant gratification? Nowadays, social media, you have the slot machine effect, and instead of thinking of gratitude externally, we self-gratify and self-indulge in ourselves. What can we do to begin, cleaning that out?
Slot machine effect?
You haven't heard that one?
Hello.
When you scroll and scroll, it's like you're hitting jackpot.
All right, I'll try to remember that one. Slot machine effect. Mumtaz. So how do you get out of that instant gratification? Well, it takes growing out of a fundamental aspect of our humanity, right? The Quran says it. Human beings were created in haste, right? خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ مِنْ عَجَلٍ, meaning it's part of my nature to be hasty, right? Some people more than others. Some people, they just need it and they need it now, right? And even like sometimes when it comes with a phone call, all right, person didn't answer the first time, I'm going to call a second time, I'm going to call a third time, I'm going to call a fifth time, and sometimes it happens. You'd be surprised. Just like if someone has a question and something urgent, they'll just keep on calling and calling and calling, or messaging or whatever. I'm just being facetious and joking around. But anyway, some people have this more than others, but we all have this as part of our humanity. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ مِنْ عَجَلٍ وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. The human being is in a constant state of haste, quick to react, quick to argue, right? Quick to deny, right? And that really takes a lot of effort, because one of the things, the hallmark of wisdom is what? The hallmark of wisdom is what? That you're someone who does what needs to be done, the way it should be done at the time it should be done. That's what wisdom is. And to become a wise person, you need to be able to take a step back and think. The more you think and reflect on things, and you couple that thought with knowledge, the more you're going to see a lot of details and shades of gray. You're going to see that not all situations are the same. And maybe perhaps I need to think about this once, twice, and thrice before I react. The fool is the one who submits to knee-jerk reactions. I'm just going to, this person said this, immediately I'm going to say this back. That's a sign of khifat aql. Khifat aql. The person doesn't have any sense of weight, intellectual or cognitive weight. That's the person who's quick to react. And that's actually what aql means, right? Here's a question, here's the answer to your question. لِمَ سُمِّيَ الْعَقْلُ بِذَلِكَ لِأَنَّهُ يَعْقِلُ صَاحِبَهُ. Why was the word aql chosen in Arabic for the mind? Because it's supposed to tie down the person from acting like an animal. That's why the aql is that. Because it's what makes me as a human being distinguished from animals, as a critical thinker. Right? As a critical thinker. So the more I actually endeavor to use my mind and process things and reflect on things and search for solutions, never be that person. Brothers and sisters, if there's anything that one learns in the journey of self-discovery, none of us have it all figured out. Whenever the person chooses to operate in life that they in a way that, hey, I have it all figured out. No, I don't need advice. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I know what's in my best interest. Thank you, but no thanks, right? Some people, they say this to their parents. They say this to advisors, friends, teachers, whoever. Some people, they just have it all figured out, mashallah, until life smacks them across the head 10 times, and then they wake up and say, oh wow, there's a lot more to it than I thought. So one of the biggest things to learn in the journey of self-discovery is I don't have all the answers, and I need to search for answers. I need to search for answers. If I have anything, if I just have this characteristic, then I'll have a big doorway to becoming someone who's grateful and someone who is able to avoid haste. Wallahu alam.
Barakallahu feek. The next question is how do we avoid or learn to no longer be materialistic? And I'm guessing it's going to be a similar answer. But we talked about the gratitude piece, but can we talk more about the materialism piece? How do we strip that from us?
Jazakallah khair. There's just one line of poetry, I have to say it, relating to what I was saying before. They say, قَدْ يُدْرِكُ الْمُتَأَنِّي بَعْضَ حَاجَتِهِ وَقَدْ يَكُونُ مَعَ الْمُسْتَعْجِلِ الزَّلَلُ. This qad is, the first one is لِلتَّكْثِير and the second one is لِلتَّقْلِيل. They say that the one who is muta'anni, takes his time, takes her time. You know what? It's okay if I don't get married in a day or night. It's okay if I let things simmer for a little bit and just process it. It's okay if this doesn't happen now, right? قَدْ يُدْرِكُ الْمُتَأَنِّي بَعْضَ حَاجَتِهِ. They'll get what they're looking for. And then the one who's hasty will often find themselves saying something, then taking it back, doing and faltering, and promising this and then taking back their promise, and so on and so forth. Anyway, getting to this really important second question that you're asking, how do I become less materialistic? You know what? Maybe I need to lessen the attention I give to material things. Maybe that's a place to start. We're part of a culture that promotes consumerism. People, again, it's a capitalist society, and people want to make money. And it's not enough to stop at one iPhone, for example. Again, no one feel guilty. If you want to get the iPhone 14, go ahead. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless it for you. Some of you may have already had it for 2 months. Mabruk, yani. But anyway, I don't know when people first started getting it. But the point is here, is consumerist society might teach that you always need the next newest thing. You got the 2021 version, and that's outdated, right? Now you need 2022. No, in fact, people already got 2023 versions of the cars or mash'arifeh. You always need to update, right? You need to update everything. Everything you need to keep on update. It's a consumerist culture because that's what makes people money. And those things aren't bad. I'm not saying they're bad. However, they're from the realm of mubah. And what's mubah? Mubah are the things that are allowable. Now imagine it's like this. You have like this container, and we're going to fill this container with different things. What do we have to fill our container with? We have fara'id. We're going to imagine them like rocks. Right? We're going to write on some rocks, this is fard. And other rocks, this is mustahab, recommended things. And then other rocks, this is the mubah. And then other rocks, we're going to put the haram. These are different ahkam taklifiyya. We're going to fill this container up. Alright? Some people, they'll fill the container with a ton of mubah. Alright, let me get all the rocks. Alright, this is mubah. Okay, it's okay for me to get this type of clothing. It's okay for me to buy these new types of gadgets. It's okay for me to go eat here, and it's okay for me to take a vacation there. And I'm going to just put a few more things here and there, and just going to, oh man, the container's full. Is there any room for anything else left? Is there any room for fada'il? Is there any room for a sense of sacrifice? I can't give any more sadaqahs, I'm sorry. I spent all my money getting X, Y, and Z, maybe next paycheck, or maybe a few paychecks down the line, right? I spent all my time consumed with watching this, okay, good thing. Yeah, that's right, mashallah. You know, is there soccer tonight? Wala mafish. Wala because of the, is there soccer happening right now? Oh, okay, okay. I was going to say, mashallah, the masjid's full and the World Cup's going on. You know, but I didn't really, yeah, the time difference. So if I'm consumed with mubah, watching World Cup, watching Giants lose, watching مش عارف basketball, this basketball game there, you like that one, huh? Anyway, and I'm watching this movie here, and I'm going hanging out with my friends there. Is there going to be any time to wake up for Fajr, any time to pray Isha in the masjid, any time for this or this? No, there's not going to be any time. So how do you, getting back to the question, how do you become someone who's less materialistic? Maybe I'm too fixated on the material. Maybe I'm one of those people who's always reading these articles, or when's the new thing coming out for this, when's the release date for that, when's the release date for that, and it takes up all my time. I don't have any time, la to read Quran, not to make dua, not to enjoy some spiritual, maybe I need to just change my focus. Let me just do that, and I'm sure that all of this is going to be resolved. Wallahu a'lam.
Barakallahu feek. Another question, how do we avoid the pitfalls of pride?
How do you avoid the pitfalls of pride? Learn to apologize. How do you avoid the pitfalls of pride? Learn to apologize with your mouth, right? Some people, they never apologize. They never apologize. No, not with their tongue and not with their actions. I am like I am, take it or leave it. مش عاجبك روح اخبط راسك في الحيط. You see the wall over there? Take your head and hit your head into the wall, and that's it. I'm rougher on the edges. I'm not going to change who I am. You need to accept me for who I am. You don't like it, that's your problem. Some people, they're like that. They never apologize. This is, a'udhu billah, one of the worst characteristics to have. Other people, they're too proud to ever say, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be vulnerable like that. I'm not going to show them I was wrong. I'm not going to come out and apologize to somebody. No, I'll try to do it through actions, right? I'll try to do it through actions. This is uslub al-ajiz. This is uslub al-ajiz. This is the method of someone who is emotionally weak. It's emotional weakness. What's emotional strength? I know, it doesn't matter who you are. You're younger than me, older than me, you're my son, you're my spouse, you're whoever it is. I did this wrong to you. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Samihni. Please forgive me. That's how you do away with pride. You can't do that. You're going to stay proud. What are other things that you could do to do away with pride? Do things that are humbling, man. Do things that are humbling. Some people, they're what do they call them? White collar worker versus the blue collar, white collar, blue collar. So I'm someone who's important. I'm a manager, right? Some people, they're managers and bosses in their places of work, and they come back home, they're managers and bosses at home too. And with their friends, they're managers and bosses too. Some people, they're not like that, mashallah. They have status, but they humble themselves. You know what? It's okay if I'm this big important person and I clean something on the floor. It's okay. It's okay if I'm this big important person, بس أتواضع لطفل أو أساعد في أمر عادي. I'm going to help in this basic matter. That's what the Prophet ﷺ was. Prophet ﷺ, he helped them build the Masjid Nabawi. Prophet ﷺ, he would check in on kids. Ya Umayr, ماذا فعل النغير? That's how I demolish pride. You know what? Let me not allow myself to just put myself on a pedestal, right? I'm up here, وكل واحد لازم يغني لي ويسقف لي, right? That's it.
Barakallahu feek. In regards to being thankful for what Allah has not given us, how do we distinguish between something not being given to us because of our own actions versus just because Allah chose, to not give it or to withhold it?
How do I know if, say that again?
So how do I know if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't give me something as a test versus as, due to, a direct correlation to my actions?
How do you know? Well, you can't know for certain. You can't know for certain. That's from ilm al-ghayb. It's from the unseen. Not knowing, ilm al-ghayb is actually one of the biggest tests of iman. it's a test of qadar. I don't know. Wallahi, I don't know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alimul ghaybi wa shahada. He knows the seen and the unseen. He knows the future and the past and the present. But there are so many variables in life I'm just unaware of. I'll never know why this thing I was denied from. I won't. Sometimes the answer won't come until years down the line. You wanted this and your friend got it. And then you realized, oh man, after all these years, if I ended up going down that road, then I would have been in this state of regret right now, right? I would have been, suffering from X, Y, and Z, right? That happens with people. That happens. Sometimes it takes years to show what's good and what's bad, and I'll ultimately never know. But how should I see it? As long as I'm doing my part, I'm going to be happy with what Allah wrote for me. If I'm someone who's neglecting my responsibility, then I should hold myself accountable for that. But the other one, because from alam al-ghayb, you really don't know what's waiting behind. I've heard so many stories, what's waiting behind closed doors of people who they missed out on getting something they thought was amazing, and only to realize that, had they gotten it, they would have been suffering at this very moment. A lot of things are like that. Anyway, go ahead.
Barakallah feek. This is another good question, since you mentioned white collar, blue collar, and materialism. Speaking for the business owners, how do we ensure that we are not contributing to the rise of materialism, and to what extent might we be held accountable if it is something we should be cognizant of?
Contributing to the rise of materialism, I wonder what their thought process is on that.
So, for example, as a business owner, maybe you can be very religious, but also want to build your empire, as some will call it. Constantly growing your revenue, building the business, making it bigger and bigger. You're going to profit off of making people want to buy your product.
Yeah.
So that would make people continue to live in the circle of materialism.
Look, everything needs there needs to be a balance struck. Can you be someone who's very successful in business, yet very spiritual and religious? Yeah, you can, of course. But you can't allow your pursuit of business to consume you at all at the expense of everything else. You can't allow that. As the Prophet ﷺ was told in the Quran, وَإِذَا رَأَوْا تِجَارَةً أَوْ لَهْوًا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو من التجارة. Someone who does what you're asking in the name of, for example, leaving Salat al-Jumu'ah. I have a lot of responsibilities financially and my business, I'll tell him, no, the Quran is telling you what Allah has is better than those distractions that you have and from your business altogether. No, if I allow that to take away from my business or even from my family, like we give the example in the khutbah, there's a long list of people who are in a state of regret because they chose business over family. Working 14-hour shifts every single day, 7 days a week, and then they lose their son or daughter in the process. Please, Habibi, guys, I could hear you. If you're going to talk, you could go over there. Jazakumullah khair. So 14-hour shifts, and then you lose your kids in the process. There's too many stories like this. Was it a good choice? I don't know. Ask your 401k. Go ask your 401k, Mabruk alayk al 401k, and your son or daughter don't even pray. What a beautiful result, right? So we mentioned this in the khutbah, but again, it all comes down to priorities. If I have my priorities in place and I want to focus on building my business empire or mash'arifeh, as long as I am honest, trustworthy, go ahead, do that. Tajir. Tijara is a form of ibadah. Being a merchant and buying and selling is something completely fine. It's encouraged. I could worship Allah Azza wa Jal by doing these types of things as long as I do it the right way.
Barakallah feek. Yeah, that was a very good answer. Thank you. Can you talk about, ways to lessen the jealousy within you? You mentioned, seeing other people's things and, seeing all the sparkles and the toys and all of that. And sometimes, there's two parts to this. One, just being jealous over other people's things, and then people all say, like, you can make hasad on yourself and almost, ما بحسد whatever it is in Arabic. I don't know it, but my mom says it sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's. Oh man, you put your mom on blast there.
No. It's good lessons.
I could see. So technically, hasad, means tamanni zawal al-ni'mah, to wish that the diminishment of a blessing. And you won't really do hasad of yourself if that's what hasad means. Even though I know they say this on the tongue, a lot. But in actuality, the definition of hasad is for you to want someone else to lose something. And sometimes you might not be thinking about them as much as you're thinking about yourself. You start looking at other people with a look of tahassur. I wish my life was like that. I wish I was able to succeed like that. And sometimes this leads to you giving them ayn. That, and ayn and hasad are very close to each other. So you need to be careful from this. How do I become someone who doesn't have these ill feelings towards others? How can I the way that you could do that is by realizing that nothing good in life stems from anyone but Allah. That instead of seeing this as, oh, fulan imil, fulan was able to do this. No. Allah al-Muhsin huwa alladhi adhara hadha ala yadi hadha al-abd. Allah is the one who made fulan look so beautiful and so handsome and so nice. Allah is the one who made fulan have such pleasant rizq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him more. Right? So when you start seeing it through the lens of Allah's doing, it just makes it different dimensional. Because Allah is al-Muhsin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the excellent one. It's one of His beautiful names and attributes. And it becomes less about what fulan was able to do and more about what Allah enabled fulan to do. Allah is the one who wanted this to happen. Allah is the one who created this reality. It's a big healing from hasad. It's a big healing from hasad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who doesn't forget any of His creation, willed that my situation be like this, and fulan, this situation be like that. And there's a beautiful ayah in the Quran that mentions وَرَفَعَ بَعْضَكُمْ فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ دَرَجَاتٍ لِيَتَّخِذَ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا سُخْرِيًّا وَرَحْمَةُ رَبِّكَ خَيْرٌ مِمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who distributed rizq. And He made people in different stations so that we may find use in one another. Sukhriya, not sikhriya, right? Not sukhriya, yani. It's coming from us completing each other, right? So, no, I want Allah's ihsan to show through every one of His creation. So let me make that the dynamic. Allah is doing this. Should I object to Allah's doing? No, I don't, right? Fulan, fulana, fulana, they're just variables. They're variables for a temporary period of time. Allah made fulan a doctor who makes 300k a year. And He made fulana the mother of 5, 6 children. And He made fulan kada, and He made kada. And all of this, in the end of the day, is going to diminish and deplete. Let me make sure I do right with what I've been given, and that's all that matters. Allahu Alam.
Barakallahu feek. There's one more question here that we can ask, but before that I'd want to gauge the audience. Does anyone have any questions that they would want to ask?
Any questions, brothers or sisters? Any questions that you'd like to ask directly?
Okay. We talked about, pride, diminishing pride, and apologizing to people, treating them well. So the next step would be, how can I show more gratitude to those around me? Friends, family, colleagues.
How can you show more gratitude to those around you? Look, one of the beautiful things that we mentioned in the khutbah today is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually describes Himself as the grateful one, right? So, Shukur is not something reactionary, right? It's not something that's coming as a reaction to something being done. It's actually a khuluq. It's something that's embedded within me as a person. What does it mean that Allah is a shakur, the grateful one? We answered it in the khutbah. You guys remember what we said? Remember what we said? Anyone remember what a shakur means? Anyone? Exactly. He's the one who rewards great reward for few actions. Great reward for few actions. That's what Ash-Shakur is. That's what Allah's name Ash-Shakur means. So when this comes to me dealing with those around me, you know what? Maybe I should be that type of person too, who shows regard and reverence for every major thing and every small thing as well. Let me be someone who really, really appreciates people. Let me not be that person who undermines the actions of others. No. If I am able to be someone who pays attention to those small things, and those, one of the beautiful things about Allah is the Quran says, وَإِن تَكُ حَسَنَةً يُضَاعِفْهَا وَيُؤْتِ مِن لَدُنْهُ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if it's a good deed, He's going to multiply it and give great reward from Him. Let me live like that. Let me live my life like that. Some people, they're very transactional in their dealings. Very transactional. All right, you get me a gift worth $50, I'm going to make sure I get you a gift worth $50. You come to my wedding, I'll come to your wedding, right? You visit my home, I'll visit your home. You're kind and courteous, I'll be kind and courteous back. Transactional, right? Let me stop that. Let me cut that out. Maybe perhaps me being grateful to those around me means that I don't lose sight of the good when there is bad. Maybe that's what it means. You ever think of that? You guys know the story of one of the companions. He had family in Mecca. This was right before Fatih Mecca. And he heard about Fatih Mecca. So he sent a letter to Mecca giving them a warning. Muhammad ﷺ and his companions are coming. The Prophet was told about this through wahi. So the letter was intercepted and they brought the men forward. It's an act of betrayal, treachery, right? He's informing the enemy of the Prophet's movements, and this could have ruined everything. They would have been prepared and they would have fortified themselves. They might have got more soldiers or mash'arifeh. It would have been a big massacre perhaps. But then Sayyidina Umar, he wanted to punish this man. Act of treachery. Can you really blame him? Can you really blame him? But look at this. This story shows us Umar's reaction and then the Prophet ﷺ's response. And then there's another story I'll share after that. The Prophet ﷺ told Umar, leave him alone, because he witnessed Badr. This companion witnessed Badr. He had a weakness in this moment. He had a moment of weakness, and he had a bad judgment call. And that's why he did this. He witnessed Badr, and you don't know, oh Umar, maybe Allah observed the people of Badr and said, do as you may, I have forgiven you. Look at that, the Prophet ﷺ. He doesn't forget the good that the people do in light of the bad. Some people, you just blow on them like this, and they'll never talk to you ever again. That's it, you're my enemy. I'm going to put an X on you, right? You just stepped on my toes. That's it, I hate you and I hate you for life. You're on the other side now. A'udhu billah, what type of qalb is this? This person, I'm serious, I was exaggerating when I said blow, but I'm serious, sometimes that's all it takes. You just give a person a look and that's it, they'll take a mawqif from you and that's it. They won't talk to you for months. Why? Because you were having a bad day and you didn't smile in their face like they wanted to. Wallahi it happens. Wallahi it happens. I'm not exaggerating, right? The other story was something even more, just as bad actually, just as bad. This is treachery, this is a big thing, it's not a minor thing. The other thing was with Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Sayyidina Abu Bakr, what was said about his daughter by his cousin, right? Sayyidina Aisha, she was accused in her sharaf and in her honor. Who has the guts, the courage, the bravery to forgive someone after they do something like that to their own daughter or their own family member? Oh. Again, lives of people, right? How many stories have come across my way of, we don't talk to Uncle Fulan or Aunt Fulan and we haven't talked to them for years. Why? That's it. Our families are bad with each other because some story that happened between our parents like 10, the kids might not even remember. They might even know the story. They don't even know the story. But they just know that ta'aleem, the instructions coming from Mama, Baba, ammo, amto, khalo, khalto, we don't talk to them. You never talk to them. If you ever try to talk to them, this is going to happen, right? These are stories from people's lives. This is reality, right? Sayyidina Abu Bakr was accused in his sharaf. And the Quran goes and tells him, وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَنْ يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Be a bigger man. Forgive, overlook it. You know what? Maybe that's what it means. That's what it takes to be a grateful person. I'm not going to just show appreciation to people who do nice things to me. I'm going to have the capacity to look beyond the bad and see the goodness that was done in the past. And there's so much to say about this more than that, Wallahu a'lam, but that's what I have. Alright, Jazakumullah khair, Barakallah feekum. If the snacks haven't already all finished, seems like the brothers wiped them out. The sisters didn't even touch them yet. So please enjoy the snacks. Jazakumullah khair, Barakallah feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.